Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse, coming to you live on this wonderful Friday evening. And my goodness, is there a lot to talk about? And the crazy thing is I really believe that as we get closer to the election and the days following the election, that we're going to look back on this time and think, oh, this was nothing. I think things are going to get even more crazy and wild. And I thank you all for tuning in to myself and Man in America for these big updates on some crazy stuff that's happening. And I'm dedicated. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm actually doubling and tripling efforts to keep bringing you this information. So I thank all of you for being on here with me tonight. So I've got one thing I'm going to show you, just something that's absolutely wild to think about. I'll pull this up before we jump into the main part of the show. This is a tweet from John McAfee or however you want to pronounce it. It's probably the right way. John McAfee, the virus software guy that is supposedly dead. We're not sure. The official story is that he's dead, but there's the official story. A lot of people are dead that may still be alive. Anyway, so he put this tweet out. This is the actual tweet. It's not a screenshot. This is the real tweet off of Twitter. I mean, I can go highlight it. He put this tweet out on July 18th, 2020. And he said, Russia's first time traveler has returned. Guess what he said? In September, Biden is medically diagnosed as unfit for office and quits. They discovered the DNC has legal power to choose a replacement without a national vote. Weird, huh? You'll never guess who they choose. So, again, walk back to July 2020. This is before the election, before Biden was in office. So the fact that he's coming at that time saying that funny enough that Russia's time travel of all countries, right? And we're talking about Russia and the DNC hack, right? As we get into CrowdStrike and all that, but the fact that he's saying that a Russian time traveler has came back and said that Biden is medically diagnosed as unfit for office and quits in September, and that they discover that the DNC can just has the power to choose who they're going to replace him with. Anyway, kind of strange if you ask me. It's odd. I mean, I honestly, if you ask if I believe in time travel, I think there's a good chance of it. Honestly, I think that there's a possibility of it. So, when I see these stories of these time travelers, I'm not like instantly discrediting them and saying that's absolutely impossible. I think that there is a chance. I'm open to it, right? I mean, this might be some of the best proof that we have. I don't know. Anyway, really interesting tweet from old John there, and maybe we'll see him reemerge. Maybe he actually didn't die, but he started time traveling. I don't know. Guess we'll find out. The guy certainly knows viruses well, and so he'd be a useful voice to have around these days. So, all right. So jumping into the show, we've got a lot to cover between CrowdStrike, a lot of updates on the assassination attempt, and some information about Blackrock and they're handling some things, and Larry Fink, and there's just some interesting stuff going on. Before we jump into that, first off, we're doing a giveaway, and actually, so the winner I'll be announcing next Friday. We just started it midweek this week, but we're giving away 5 ounces every week now. Actually, 5 ounces of pure silver. Right, this is what will show up in the mail if you are the lucky winner. So these are Buffalo rounds, or just silver rounds. Are not officially minted coins, but they are 1 ounce each, pure silver. And we're giving away 5 every single Friday. So if you go to maninamerica.com/win, the link is also in the description. If you enter in using your first name and your email, you enter in to win. And once you enter in, I'll keep putting you back in the drawing every Friday. So we're going to keep doing this. So you might win 5 ounces of silver next week, and you might win it again a month from now. So if you want to enter into that, it's free. You go to maninamerica.com/win, and you just plug in your first name and your email. It's pretty simple stuff. And if you know me, I like precious metals, I like silver, and I love giving it away. The other thing is that if you are looking to purchase gold or silver, I got a quick message for you, because folks, we all see it. Everything is getting more expensive. We're paying 2, 3, 4 times what things cost a few years ago. And we know they're lying to us. 3% inflation, really? Come on, think about it. Why are they telling us to keep our hard-earned money in the banks and the stock market while they're rushing to buy gold and silver? That's right. Governments and central banks around the world are dumping the dollar and scrambling to buy up gold and silver right now. These are smart people. They see the signs just like you do, folks. They know the crash is coming. The dollar has lost more than half its value in the last 5 years alone, and our national debt's increasing $1 trillion every 100 days. It can't go on like this. Even Bank of America is warning about a dollar collapse. And if they're right, it's only a matter of time before our savings, our IRAs, our 401ks could be wiped out. So look, right now, it's still easy to buy gold and silver, but in the future, it may not be because experts are saying that prices are going to keep surging, and UBS has even said that gold could go up to even $5,000 an ounce. So Kirk Elliott, my good friend, his phone has been ringing off the hook because the folks who get it aren't wasting time. Now, look, I can't tell you what to do with your hard-earned money, but I can tell you that even if some of your savings are in gold and silver, you can rest assured that money is safe. So call Kirk Elliott and protect your wealth today. I'll pull up his website for you. Goldwithseth.com. It's okay. So look, folks, it's better to be one day early it's better to be 6 months early than one day late. His website here is goldwithseth.com. It takes you here. What you do when you get here, you fill out this basic form for a free wealth consultation, or you call 720-605-3900. Again, so goldwithseth.com, 720-605-3900. All right, folks, so diving into today's show, there's so much to talk about. Pardon me. Let me first bring up what's happening with CrowdStrike. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on CrowdStrike just to help create some context for our conversations today, because it's important to know their history, because the timing of all this happening, right? This, like what they're calling the most significant cyber outage in history, that's happening within days of this assassination attempt. It's happening right during the RNC period, right after Trump, right around the time that Trump has officially been nominated as the presidential candidate for the Republican Party. So there's a lot to be digging into. So let's go ahead and start with a quick video before we dive into the specifics of CrowdStrike. And we're going to go to our favorite friend, Mr. Klaus Schwab. So this is, perhaps you've seen it. I'm going to just play this quick video for you, and this will help set the stage for our discussion. So it's 35 seconds long. Here goes Mr. Klaus Schwab.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
So, of course, they always telegraph what they're doing. Now, what happened with CrowdStrike supposedly wasn't a cyber attack, which we'll be getting into that. But I wanted to play that because if you've followed along and you've found, you've watched Event 201, where they war gamed an entire pandemic with a coronavirus pandemic, literally months before it officially started happening. If you go back and look at the Rockefeller documents on lockstep, I mean, it's like when Alex Jones, people ask him, how do you always know what's going to happen? And he's like, well, I just read it. I mean, there you can go find the videos, information that show the exact plan that's playing out. So I really believe that the discussion of this cyber pandemic, as they've discussed it, where Klaus Schwab saying basically it'll make COVID look like a day in the park compared to what could happen with, which, I mean, I actually happen to agree with that. I've done a lot of studying, extensive, probably too much actually, into what happens during grid down scenarios. EMP, cyber attacks on the grid. A grid down scenario is like worse than ever. I mean, it literally, like a grid down in America, like a true, say there's an EMP that went off, it makes the bubonic plague look like, chicken pox. I mean, it's something that experts are saying that, within America, within the first year, upwards of 90% of people would be gone. Right? It's no joke, right? So cyber attacks are very, very serious. And so I wanted to play that because it just helps give some context to what we're talking about today. So diving into the specifics of this outage, right? So they say it is the biggest IT outage ever, according to experts. So major banks, airports, and airlines are affected by this IT outage. Rail services were disrupted in parts of US and UK. Payment systems in different parts of the world, including Australia and the UK. Australia's government is calling for emergency meetings, significant disruption to some Microsoft services. 9/11 services disrupted in several U.S. states, including Alaska, Arizona, Indiana, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Ohio. Services at the London Stock Exchange were disrupted. Sky News went off air. Other media facing disruptions. The CrowdStrike CEO says it's not due to a cyber attack, and the issue has been identified, isolated, and a fix has been deployed. So you can see just this, one cyber event here. We're talking about banks being down, transportations being down, the 911 services being down. I mean, imagine that there's a cyber attack that coincides with some sort of other terror attack, and imagine you can't even call 911 if there's an issue, or imagine any other number of things, say public transportation going down. So cyber attacks are not something to take lightly, and you can see just what happened from this. And there's videos all over social media of massive lines at the airlines. People, it's just complete chaos. So I want to take a look though at just an introduction. Maybe you're familiar with CrowdStrike. Maybe you heard about it as it related to, say, WikiLeaks and the RNC, hack and, et cetera. But looking at this, so CrowdStrike, basically, so this is a Verge article. This is just a very mainstream article, just to give you a little bit of understanding here for some context. So what is CrowdStrike and what happened? So the cybersecurity giant CrowdStrike brought down thousands of systems after pushing a faulty update to Windows machines. Now, I don't necessarily buy that it was a faulty update. I think that these things are rarely accident. It's like the trades that the shorts that are placed on Trump stock right before the day before the assassination, and the firm, which we're talking about this today, they come out and they say, "Oh, it was a clerical clerking error or something like that." It's like, I don't know. So, anyways, they're saying that there's this mistake after they push out a bad update to Windows systems. But to give you a little more context, it says on Friday morning, some of the biggest airlines, TV broadcasters, banks, and other essential services came to a standstill as a massive outage rippled across the globe. The outage, which has brought the blue screen of death upon legions of Windows machines across the globe, is linked to just one software company, CrowdStrike. So it says CrowdStrike plays an important role in helping companies find and prevent security breaches, billing itself as having the fastest mean time to detect threats. Since its launch in 2011, the Texas-based company has helped investigate major cyber attacks such as Sony Pictures hack in 2014, as well as the Russian cyber attacks on the DNC, which we all know was fake news. Okay, so it's funny. Of course, they're still pushing that. Now it says that as of Thursday evening, CrowdStrike's valuation was upwards of $83 billion. Now, what's interesting is that from my research, I don't have it in front of me right now, but as I understand it, one of the main owners, right, the main founders of this is some wealthy Ukrainian oligarch. Okay, this is what, so even though it says, it's a Texas company, it has strong ties to Ukraine. All right, so if we're looking, so we've got Ukraine, we've got Russia, they're tying into this. We're starting to kind of see the beginnings of a picture forming here. All right, so let's dig in a little deeper. So here is a post from Laura Loomer, who's talking about CrowdStrike, and she's talking about this guy who is the chief security officer. So she said, "Did you know that the president of CrowdStrike Services and the chief security officer served as the executive assistant director of the FBI under the Obama-Biden administration?" I'm not sure. Did you know that? Imagine that. Weird how the CrowdStrike global outage happened during President Trump's nomination speech at the RNC convention. Again, when I'm looking at stuff, you'll rarely hear me draw a precise conclusion, say this is exactly what it is, because stuff changes, right? And oftentimes we don't know. We can do our best to research and guess, but we don't know necessarily. But what's interesting here, though, what I look for patterns. I look for the coincidences, right? Like it's like the Matrix. You see the cat twice, and like, hey, something's not right here. So with this, it's like the fact that this massive, literally like the biggest cyber outage in history happened during President Trump's nomination speech at the RNC convention. Is it just a coincidence? Maybe it is, but I don't think so. Okay, so she continues, meet Sean Henry. This is the guy she's talking about. So Sean Henry is the Chief Security Officer and President of CrowdStrike Services. He joined CrowdStrike in 2012 after retiring from the FBI Senior Executive Service. It says prior to joining the private sector, Henry spent 24 years with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, where he held various operational and leadership roles. He eventually became the Executive Assistant Director, overseeing half of the FBI's investigative operations, including all FBI criminal and cyber investigations worldwide, international operations, and the FBI's critical incident response to major investigations and disasters. He also managed the computer crime investigations spanning the globe and established the National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force. Okay, here's the guy right here. There's his picture. This is him. Now, am I saying that he's guilty? No. Okay, and actually neither is she. Laura's not saying he's guilty of anything, but she's pointing out this strange coincidence, right? So this, and we'll get more back, we'll dive more into CrowdStrike and their history, but the fact that their chief security officer, which I imagine that a CSO is a really, really, really important role at a company that specializes in cybersecurity, right? So the fact that this guy had this extensive career with the FBI, which in my humble opinion, the FBI is no different than the mafia, or maybe there's some good people within it, but it's by and large, it's a criminal organization, right? That has been turned against we the people. Look what they've done to Donald Trump. Look what they've done to Peter Navarro. Look what they've done to really anybody who steps up and questions what they're doing. So the fact this guy was that high up within the FBI, and now he happens to be the chief security officer of CrowdStrike, just raises some eyebrows for me. Okay. Now, a little more background on CrowdStrike. So this is Liz Crokin, who you've probably seen. She's been one of the main people that's been on the forefront of reporting on specifically a lot of the child sex trafficking. She was a big person over the Pizzagate stuff, et cetera. So here she goes. So newsflash, the massive Microsoft outage happening right now linked to CrowdStrike is the cybersecurity company hired by Hillary Clinton and the DNC to investigate Russia's alleged breach into the DNC. So again, remember that back at around that time, that this is the company that the DNC brought in to investigate, right? The whole thing, right? This is, WikiLeaks, et cetera. So as Liz continues, the breach that allegedly led to the release of the Podesta emails exposing Pizzagate and the release of the DNC emails via WikiLeaks. So again, we know that, okay, Seth Rich, American hero, released all this information, okay, via WikiLeaks. Was fed. I won't get into the details of how all that worked. But then what happened is that they brought in CrowdStrike, this cybersecurity expert, and they came in. And they said, "Oh, no! This wasn't some internal guy that leaked real information. This whole thing was a Russian operation, right? It was the Russians." So again, we have what is in many ways a Ukrainian company being brought in by the DNC. Imagine that even at that time, there are strong ties between Ukraine and the DNC. So the DNC brings in a Ukrainian, cybersecurity company with ties to the FBI that then comes in and says, "Oh, yep, this was absolutely Russia. It's all fake news. Don't look in here." Okay. But what's interesting, she points out in this particular post, is that she says, "I'd like to know why George Kurtz," right? So who is George Kurtz? George Kurtz is the president and CEO of CrowdStrike. What's interesting, he was a former CTO of McAfee, which is interesting. We were just talking about John, so who knows? Maybe it's all tied together. Anyway, so she says, "I'd like to know why George Kurtz posted that the CrowdStrike team was having a great time with no pandas and bears here on June 6, 2016. So it's really important that we hone in on the language that is used, because a lot of times the words seem simple, but they're communicating very complex things or very important things, right? So what she says is Panda was Seth's nickname and also the code name for his anonymous social media account. She says, George, you think we are stupid and that people like me haven't been tracking all your stupid and sloppy mistakes for years now. Okay, so, and here's his post, right? It looks like it's a dinner with a lot of the executives and people at some sort of fancy black tie event for CrowdStrike. Again, weird because it's back in 2016. Why would he write no pandas and bears here? It's almost like they're saying, well, as she points out, she goes, I'd also like to know why John Podesta wrote in an email that he wants to make an example out of a leaker. Okay, we all know what happened to Seth Rich. So it's just, again, it's strange coincidence. So again, another strange coincidence is the timing of this. So here's the Patriot Voice, John Sable, a friend of mine, saying Zelensky's having a call with Trump today, right? So I think this happened earlier today or yesterday. I forget, I'm not sure exactly. Actually, let me check which the tweet date was July 19th. Yep, okay. So he's saying Zelensky's having a call with Trump today, the same day that CrowdStrike server crashes, causes a good amount of the world to shut down. Not a coincidence. So what he's putting out there, which is an interesting idea, okay, he's saying CrowdStrike, a company with Ukrainian ties, is also the same company that hosted the DNC servers in 2016 when Seth Rich leaked a ton of emails to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. What else is on those servers that has the cabal so spooked? Could it be blackmail on several powerful individuals? Could it be that this is the real reason they kept Julian locked up in prison for 7 years and tried to kill him multiple times? Interestingly, the company was also the first company to sound the alarm about Russian interference, which set in motion the endless witch hunt against Trump. And here's his question. Is Zelensky going to give up the goods to Trump about CrowdStrike and all the money laundering through the U.S. government because he knows Trump is coming back? Is he trying to save himself? I don't know. But again, it's a little bit strange, coincidence perhaps. Now, I mean, it does make sense after his nomination. He calls Zelensky. They have some conversation. Zelensky is he's a very powerful, prominent figure. Even though he's a puppet of many sorts, but still, he's a key figure in geopolitics these days. So, but again, it's a good point. Like, what's that conversation? Does through CrowdStrike, do they have a massive amount of blackmail information? So is Trump stepping into this? And it makes me wonder if a lot of these very powerful people, the deep state, do they believe now that basically that Trump is just going to get in? And are they now changing their tune? I mean, even I shared this on social media earlier today. There's a recent interview with Mark Zuckerberg and Bloomberg, and he's almost starry-eyed talking about Trump. Like, it was really strange. And he was talking about the shooting and how Trump got back up and was standing up, and he said something to the effect of it was one of those badass things he's seen in his life, right? Talking about Trump getting back up after his the whole incident. So it makes me wonder. I don't think necessarily that these people are just kind of they've had this awakening and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a good person now, maybe, but it makes me wonder if more powerful people that we'd consider being deep state or cabal are seeing that Trump will be getting in and that they've lost their chance of preventing him from getting in or putting someone else in that can actually win. And so now they're changing their tune and they're kind of coming around to Trump. I don't know. It could be. Absolutely could be. Okay, so continuing. And here's an interesting thing, okay, is with CrowdStrike. So again, it's back to John, again, Patriot Voice, TPV John on Twitter. He says, you will never guess voting machines and electronic polls do in fact connect to the internet, just like we've been screaming about since 2020. Well, guess which server company hosts Dominion voting machines? CrowdStrike. Okay, so this is even crazier. So that, and again, I haven't done the background research to validate this. John's a smart guy. He's oftentimes quite precise with his information he comes out with. But again, so if CrowdStrike is hosting Dominion voting machines, which actually this might be the thing that tells you that, right? So what he's referencing here is this is a image from Maricopa County elections saying, due to the global tech outage, Maricopa County elections is also experiencing an outage at some voting locations. Please visit location.maricopa vote, blah, 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 blah. So how strange is it that they're saying that there's a tech outage, okay? And what John is saying here is that the Dominion's servers are hosted, with the company is, or sorry, Dominion's data is hosted on the servers of CrowdStrike. So again, strange occurrences here that you never know. And the thing that he says here, okay, the question that he asks here, which is really important, is he's saying, was today a possible test run for presidential election day? And that's a really, really important question, because we know that they are trying to disrupt every possible thing that Trump can do to get back into office. They've multiple impeachments and indictments, and they've even tried shooting him. I mean, and that's just the assassination attempt that we know of. I've heard from a lot of different people and various sources that there's been many assassination attempts on Trump, just none that are public like this. I've heard sometimes even upwards of over a dozen, which wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the case. So again, are they planning? Is this some kind of test run? Like, is this in the cards that we've already been warning us about a cyber attack, and as we get closer to the election day, maybe even on election day, is there going to be a global cyber outage that causes them to stop counting the votes? And it's a pretty plausible scenario. So you got to take your hat off to John there. So now, one of the questions might be, okay, so CrowdStrike, we know that they're tied into a lot of money out of Ukraine, but then looking at, it is a public company, right? Their market cap, as I mentioned, was like $83 billion or something incredible like that. But who's the largest shareholder? Well, you could probably guess. Okay, so if you look at CrowdStrike Holdings, right, we've got here. So, okay, who owns CrowdStrike? And if you come into the active positions, you come into there's 1,600 institutional holders. And guess who is number one? There we go. We've got BlackRock and Vanguard. Now, saying that BlackRock is a majority shareholder in a company isn't necessarily damning evidence. I mean, they own like 99.9% of everything on Earth, right? Of course, it's an exaggeration, but like most companies that are public, you go to and you see, oh yeah, the majority shareholder is BlackRock and Vanguard. But it is interesting. Okay, again, is it a coincidence? I don't know. Okay, but what's also worth mentioning though is that BlackRock is also, according to a lot of information being put out and research being done, one of the major, backings or money of this company. So this Austin Private Wealth that, so now what they're coming out and saying, it was a clerical error that they accidentally shorted this massive amount of Truth Social shares, but also we found out that that maybe it was a mistake again, perhaps, that they also shorted 34 million shares of Rumble at the exact same time. So here, Steven Seal on Twitter says that, furthermore, okay, they shorted Rumble. Austin Private Wealth has connections to the Bush family, George Soros, and BlackRock. Furthermore, the shooter, Matthew Crooks, was once featured in a BlackRock commercial. So the investment group is now saying it was a mistake. So there's just too many weird coincidences that are lining up about this. There's too many weird things that are lining up about the election and BlackRock and this assassination attempt. I mean, it's strange, okay? And then we have CrowdStrike, and that now again, maybe BlackRock's data is hosted on CrowdStrike servers. We don't know, but these things are all tied together. And I don't know necessarily how, but you can see there's a thread that pulls all this together, and it's quite disturbing. Actually, it really is. Now, I want to go back to play you a short video from. This is back from. Let me zoom in and show you the date. This is back from December 21st, 2023, when this was posted. This is someone asking Vivek Ramaswamy. Obviously, this is when he was still, I think, active and trying to kind of go out there and for his presidency. Someone's asking him some questions, and he talks about Larry Fink. So let me pull up really quickly Mr. Larry Fink, just so we have a reference for you. So here we go. Larry Fink. If you're not familiar with him, you should be. All right, this guy is the CEO of BlackRock. So I'm showing you this. You probably are familiar with him. But I want to go back to Vivek, because what Vivek is talking about here, you could say, is somewhat foreboding. So I'll go and play this for you. The audio is not great. I got a few complaints recently that the audio is too low. So we made some changes to our system so I can turn up internet audio louder than it was supposed to be as it was originally made. So hopefully you can hear this. So this is it's a 1 minute, 14 second clip.
It's good to see you guys.
What did you mean on social media when you said that they're not going to, they're going to take Biden out and it's not going to be Newsom?
This is a longer story. It takes a dark turn, but I think I have a good sense of what's going to happen here.
Okay.
They're leading into a trap. They're not going to let Trump get anywhere near the White House. They're not going to let him.
What about?
So the goal is, have him be the nominee, and by hell or high water, one way or another, they're not going to have him. They're not going to let him.
What about the other two, though?
It's not them.
Who is it?
It's within our own party.
Okay. It's within our own party?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Hey, look at the people who voted to keep Trump off the ballot. Who are they putting up? Who are lawsuits to keep him off the ballot? Larry Fink to Reid Hoffman. Who are they propping up? So it's a game. And I'm in this to make sure that doesn't happen. They want it to be a two-horse race, eliminate him, put up actually the Trojan horse within the Republican Party that keeps the war machine humming and keeps the restrictions on speech and the censorship agenda. Get it done. Who needs Democrats when you can get it done through the Republican Party?
Okay.
So you do the math.
So really interesting point here that he's pointed out. So he mentions, kind of summarizing what Vivek has said there. This guy's asking about candidates and everything. And what he was saying is that they want to, he's referring to the deep state, et cetera. But he specifically calls out Larry Fink and Reid Hoffman. So both multi-billionaires, very, very powerful people politically. And so what he is saying there is that, and this is his words, not mine, that basically that Reid Hoffman and Larry Fink want to get, that they're going to get Trump out of there, right? So they're going to do something to make sure that Trump is not on the ballot, right? So that Trump is not even a possibility, so they can bring in their Trojan horse, right? They can bring in their Trojan horse Republican that, as Vivek mentions there, is just going to carry the same line, right? So going back, as that was 7 months ago, right? Vivek talking about Larry Fink, the CEO of Blackrock, making sure that Trump doesn't get in. So and he's talking about it as if he has some sort of inside knowledge, right? You can see that in his mannerisms and his body language that he knows something, but he's being careful about what he's saying. So again, Larry Fink, CEO of Blackrock, you then tie that into all this other stuff happening, and it's beginning to paint a picture to me that it's too many coincidences that line up for it just to be some random stuff. But again, make up your own mind. But to me, it's there. If you look at it, it's there. So there's a lot of stuff I'm going to now to kind of jump into surrounding this assassination attempt, because it's an ongoing story. And it's something that I think that we should be covering weeks and months from now, because while Trump survived and he has a nick on his ear and he's moving forward and all that seems okay, the reality is, think about it, if this would have been successful, like, we're still looking into JFK. People are writing books about it. There's entire documentaries and a whole movie about it. There is still so much happening surrounding getting to the bottom of JFK. Like, this would have been JFK 2.0, right? And in the age of 4K cameras and high-speed photography and all this kind of stuff, it would have been JFK 2.0, like in the modern era, right? So the no one saw a close-up of JFK's head getting shot, let alone in color, let alone something that would have been spread all over social media instantly and live streamed on CNN and who knows where else was being shown. So this is significant how this could change the course of history. And so just because Trump's still here and he's back in, he's just left the RNC and he's going to be forging ahead, I'm not forgetting what they tried to do to him. I can't. I'm going to keep investigating it and keep trying to uncover it. So that's one of my commitments to you guys and ladies is to keep kind of pounding the war drum of, we got to get to the bottom of what happened on that fateful day in Pennsylvania, because it's going to reveal a lot to us. And this is what we're going through, this process right now of investigating and revealing all this stuff, all this evil corruptness that is existing. It needs to be brought to light. And so this is what we're doing. So jumping into the specifics, so I want to start with something here. And there's a woman that, okay, and I want to share this for a few reasons, but one of the big reasons is just because we have to be careful. And I try. Now, it's not always easy if you're covering breaking news that, like I'm doing. It's not always easy to triple check all your facts and everything. Like most newspapers would hate me. It's like, Seth, did you triple verify that? But I didn't have time to, right? But you understand how I'm presenting this information, that this is the best of my research, and I'm encouraging you to do your own research as well. But what I want to bring up here is that there's this video of this woman, and she's the woman that was right behind Trump. She had the black hat on and the sunglasses, and everyone was really, really confused, saying, okay, who is this woman, right? That's her right there. How basically, like right before the shooting happened, she's looking frantically towards the shooter, and then once the shooting happens, she really calmly kind of drops down, stands back up, and starts recording. And now there's a lot of people going around saying that it was this woman right here, this woman named Janine. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her Italian name, who was the assistant director for the FBI. Even Don Lucra, who has this got 21 million views on Twitter. He says, breaking news: the woman in this video behind Donald Trump, where many viewers accused her of whatever, has allegedly been identified. So I'm glad that he said allegedly, right? Because we don't know for sure. But it's important though, because a lot of people were asking in the Telegram chat or Twitter saying, hey, Seth, who's this woman? Talk about this. Who's this woman? What we found out though is that it wasn't that woman. Actually, I have a quick story for you. This is a 49-second video from Candace Taylor that basically she discovered that it was just some civilian. She's not FBI. She's just some civilian. So I'll play this for you really quickly here. It is, like I said, it's 49 seconds. Candace Owens.
Look at that side by side. You go, okay, they have some comparisons, but you can see that Janine is bigger. And also you can see that their noses are entirely different. And then we did some even further digging, and we were able to discover who, in fact, that woman is. And I'm not going to give her name because she is a private citizen, but I will show you a photo of who was sitting in the audience that day. And by the way, she ID'd herself because she went and put videos on TikTok regarding her presence when Trump was shot. And now you can see that that is definitively that girl. You can see that that is the woman, and that she is wearing the same ring that she has on in the footage of Trump's assassination attempt. So I can tell you, having gone through her Instagram, which is still public, that definitively that is the correct ID. It is not an FBI agent. Look at that side by side. You go, okay, they have some comparisons, but
So that's a good explanation. I would do my own research too. I found her. I was able to figure out which college she was part of. She's an alumni. And now maybe she's, we never know. Maybe she's a top secret agent, and she's a Mossad spy, maybe. Or maybe she's just some soccer mom that loves Trump, and maybe she has combat experience, so she doesn't get shaken up when they're shooting, and who knows, okay? But the point is that A, we know who she is, and she's just some civilian, but B, we have to be careful, because I saw, okay, so Dom put that that tweet out. I showed you, it got millions and millions of views. Now, he did say allegedly, but I then saw a lot of other Twitter accounts saying it without allegedly saying it's been confirmed, breaking news, FBI agent confirmed. So we just have to be careful. Like Twitter, which is one of my main tools for researching, it's an amazing tool actually for researching and understanding what's happening in the world. But it's a dangerous place because nothing is verified. Now you go to the mainstream media and maybe it's verified, but you can't trust them. Okay. That's why I'm a big fan of the Epoch Times, because I trust them and they verify. So it's an independent media that does follow very strict journalistic standards, but they don't, they're not controlled by the deep state. So that's a win. All right. So continuing on though, so this is it's really important, because what we're understanding now is we're starting to uncover how much of a massive inside job this assassination attempt was. So, Josh Hawley out of Missouri, this is a letter that he wrote today to Mayorkas. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read a little bit of this because it's really important. He says, "Dear Secretary Mayorkas, I write to raise concerns brought to me by whistleblowers about your department's stunning failure to protect former President Trump on July 13th. As Secretary of Homeland Security, you are ultimately responsible for your agency and its components, including the Secret Service. He says, whistleblowers who have direct knowledge of the event have approached my office. According to allegations, the July 13 rally was considered to be a loose security event. For example, the detection canines were not used to monitor entry and detect threats in the usual manner. Individuals without proper designations were able to gain access to backstage areas. Department personnel did not appropriately police the security buffer around the podium and were also not stationed at regular intervals around the event security perimeter. In addition, whistleblowers' allegations suggest the majority of DHS officials were not, in fact, Secret Service agents, but instead drawn from the Department of Homeland Security's investigation department. This is especially concerning given that HSI, the Homeland Security Investigations agents, were unfamiliar with standard protocols typically used for these type of events, according to the allegations. So basically, it's like what they're saying is that there's really lax security, but they also that the DHS brought in all these people to protect. It wasn't even real Secret Service. That a lot of them weren't even Secret Service. They weren't even people that were trained as Secret Service, right? So Secret Service training it's very specific, like what to do. So we now see all these videos coming out of these people frantic. These, especially the women, they can't holster their guns. They look really nervous. And these don't look like people that are trained Secret Service agents. So again, this just shows even further, right? Even further that they had to have known that something was going to go down. They had to have known something was going to happen there. They prepared for it. I think the media knew about it. I think that a lot of people in the financial markets knew about it. Like, I think that this was a massive, massive orchestration to publicly assassinate Donald J. Trump and for the deep state to make a showing of him. Same with JFK. It's like, hey, we're going to show you. You want to talk about splintering the CIA into 1,000 pieces? You want to talk about any of these other things? Okay, we're going to show the public what happens when someone comes up against a deep state. We're going to explode their head like a watermelon on public TV. Happened, all those years ago, JFK, and they wanted to do it again. They wanted to do it another time, at this day and age, and leave that impression. All the energy, all the populist energy that's happening in America and around the world. I mean, I think it would create an absolute uprising, which they would want. Like, I think if they would have been successful, it would have ended up in civil war. Like, they would not have been able to do that and not have just complete chaos. So, like, by the grace of God, it was not successful. But that's what they wanted to do. Like, we have to be very, very sober about that. So there's a bunch of other information that I want to dive into. So one thing is this, okay? This is from Salty Goat. He says, okay, y'all, forget the CrowdStrike and Schwab for a minute, which is funny and true. You need to watch this. If you're like me and have suspicions that the 20-year-old loner couldn't have acted alone, you'll want to hear this guy out. He does a side-by-side analysis of the audio, and what he finds is compelling to say the least. I tried to shorten it as much as I could. Do y'all think the cyber attack may have been to distract from the flow of information coming out? Also, Coyote Patriot, thank you for that $5 donation. The comment says, Seth, you have one of the best coverage of the assassination attempts thus far. Keep up the good work, friend. Thank you, Coyote Patriot. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to play. So it's like a 6-minute video. I'll play the first 3 minutes or so for you, because in the first couple of minutes, what you hear in this is that, and what he says is that there are multiple guns being used. And when you hear it and you see the waveforms, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? Because there's been this idea of a second shooter, et cetera. And I'll be getting into a post after this from Mike Adams with all this ballistics information showing that there were multiple guns from multiple locations all being shot. But I'll start with this again. I'll play the first couple of minutes for it. I'll turn up so you make sure you can hear it.
This is the 5 that make a very distinct sound. Here's one with a very different crack in it. That's the 6th shot in the string. And then here we have the final last one, which I think is the sniper weapon, which is probably the one that put the bullet just over the left eye of Crooks on the roof. So we're going to take a closer look at the blue, the red, the blacks here and listen to these things. But once again, let's just listen very carefully, and we'll go back and forth until you're certain of this yourself. These audio pieces are exactly pulled straight from the video itself. Nothing else. I haven't boosted any. I haven't done any filtering. Raw files, okay? Here's 1, 2, and 3 to start. Okay, listen to that again. Now let's listen to the next string. Ooh. Yeah. Hear that? So 6 sounds different to me, but here's an interesting thing. 1, 2, and 3, besides being muffled and further away, it doesn't have echoes. Here we go. So this here is a shot. This is an echo. Very clearly an echo, and a shot in an echo, and a shot in an echo. So this is actually critical evidence, because you hear that, there's echoes coming off. So that also allows us, again, to analyze where was this gun. But first up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound, totally different weapons. Okay, full stop. We have 2 separate weapons. Plus, we have no echoes coming off of the first 3, and then we do have echoes coming off of the next set. And that last one, that's different. That's not the sniper shot. The sniper shot is another 10 seconds later. Here's where it gets a little weirder. So what I've done, and this is...
So I could continue with that, and if you want to check it out, that video is all over Twitter, but the point that he makes, and it makes sense, seeing these audio signatures and everything, and you can tell, you can also gauge distance, right? Because if you look at the timing of, you look at, okay, here is the sound of the gunshot, here's the response to it. Like if you match up with video, you can actually see almost exactly how far away the shooter would have been, based upon, they say he had an AR-15, right? Firing 5.56. Okay, they know 5.56 will travel at this speed, and they can calculate these things. So Mike Adams, who is smart guy, did a breakdown of this, and this is interesting. So he says, okay, open source this, share, and contribute. Forensic audio analysis of the Trump shooting. First, best current analysis by Mike Adams, tagging Michael Yon and a few other guys. So what he comes down to is that, okay, round 1, he walks you through roughly the distance and what he's kind of making out. So, okay, he explains, he says, most likely explanation of round origins based on current knowledge. Round 1 is, round 1, 2, 3, like pop, pop, pop. He says is crooks on the roof. Round 4, 5, which he says are different. He is speculating that it was if you've been following his perspective, he thinks that there was actually someone inside the building that was an agent of some sort, bad actor, that was actually the person that was going to make the kill shot. And so he thinks that, so based upon that, there's a difference, right? The bullet coming off the roof from Crooks is different. So from shot 4 and 5. So he's saying that first 3 shots are by Crooks on the roof. The next 2 shots, he says, are the assassination sniper inside the building that Crooks was actually on top of. He says round number 6 was a medium range sniper at unknown location, and round 7 was a long range sniper at unknown location. Okay, so this is like crazy information, but I'm not going to say I agree 100% because I just don't know, right, with what these assessments. I know that Mike is a really smart guy, but what the picture this paints, though, is that there's multiple shooters, and which again makes sense. Like, okay, go back to JFK. Like this is a playbook they've done it before. It's like, okay, the lone gunman. No, that there are multiple shooters. Like they don't take chances with this, right? And again, back to I think it was the first show I made this point, is if you can come to the conclusion with this, that based upon, look at the whistleblowers coming to Holly, look at all the information coming out about this, it is showing us that the chance of this just being negligence is like 0.00001% chance that it's negligence. Like everything points to some sort of high level coordination, right? Now, even we see it in the financial markets, we see coordination happening in so many different places, the media, etc. So you have to ask a question. If this is such a coordinated event that failed and failing, why would they put all of this? Why would they put all their eggs into the basket of the 20-year-old guy that who knows how well he can shoot, right? Now, maybe he's trained, maybe he's really good. Why would the entire plan with all of this coordination and planning and risk all hinge upon some 20-year-old kid that may or may not be able to get the shot off? Like, they don't do that kind of stuff. They have redundancy. They say in the Army, right? 2 is 1 and 1 is none, right? So it's like if you have one of something, you basically assume it's 0 because it might break or get stolen or who knows what. You've got 0, so you always have backups. There's no way that they would have tried to pull this off, and they would have attempted to assassinate President Trump on live TV, and it was all hinging upon some 20-year-old kid, right? That I think almost on purpose was acting suspiciously, right? And then that's the other assessment of this. It's like, okay, we've got the video footage of the guy that he was wandering around. He went back, he got a ladder, he took the ladder up to the roof, he went up there, he used his range finder, then he came back down, and then he went back up with a gun, and the cop saw him, and a cop fell off and broke his ankle. I mean, it's almost like they tried so hard to make this mysterious picture of this lone gunman, but the reality is that they wouldn't trust it just as some guy. So was there a sniper up on the water tower? There's a very good chance of it, right? There's another video that I had, I'm not going to pull up today, but there's a video of a guy driving past that exact water tower. It's sectioned off, so you can't access it. There are cops around, right? I've also heard there's other video people talking about how there's some guy that was up there that had a zip line that left the water tower. There's people talking about someone getting shot on the water tower. I mean, so again, all this paints is the picture of this was a massively coordinated event similar to JFK, where they have levels of redundancy, but somehow it still failed. I mean, to me, the more I dig into this, the more I believe it's an absolute miracle, right? And there's people that have said, look, like, so you saying that it's a miracle that Trump survived, yet, it's not, the guy next to him died. It's like, are you saying that God chose Trump and he had his grace for this guy, but the guy next to him died? And look, I mean, okay, yes, they're both human beings. They're both, they're both God's children. But like the role of Trump, like the change of history that would happen from Trump being killed is absolutely significant. Okay. You can't discount that. So, I mean, again, the more I look into this, the more I break this down and see how coordinated it was, and if there's multiple shooters and snipers, even more so, it just makes me think that it was not God's plan for him to die that day. So that's my assessment. Now, as we're concluding and we're rounding out the show, well, one other thing I forgot to mention in the beginning is that if you're watching on Rumble, which is where you should be watching, Rumble or Twitter, if you're on YouTube, go find me on Rumble or Twitter and watch there, because you'll get all my content, not just stuff I'm not talking about, the stuff I can't talk about, right? If you're watching on Rumble, make sure you hit that green follow button. Like, that's one of the things. Make sure you hit the green follow button. It's right below the video. There you see green foot button, says follow. Press the button, okay? Make sure you're following, because I'm putting out this content daily now. I'm doing 4 or 5 shows a week, all kinds of other clips and everything. You can also join. I've got a community on Locals you can join if you want to as well. And also just the quick reminder of the silver giveaway. So I'll pull that up one more time for everybody. That if you want to win 5 ounces of pure silver, go to maninamerica.com/win. Enter to win there. Description is in the link is in the description below as well. So I've got one final treat for you as we're getting ready to conclude today's show. This is something that Sebastian Gorka shared. I think that it was a cartoon made kind of mocking just how ridiculous the situation is. And I think that it was probably made in some, in Europe or something like that. But it's obviously made by someone who sees exactly what's happening here. I'll play it for you though, because you're gonna love this. Let's check this out.
Being checked. Which building? The only building in front of the stage. That building. Maybe. Maybe not. How maybe not? You think it's necessary? I see a guy moving on the roof. The usual guys. Boss is very suspicious. He might be doing a parkour. He's lie down flat on his stomach. He's probably resting after doing parkour. He's looking towards Trump. Maybe the Trump fan tried to get a better view of him. Okay, he's pulled out a rifle. A rifle. Definitely a rifle. Can you tell if it's a real rifle? How I know if it's real? Maybe it's fake and we are worrying for nothing. It's a real rifle. Very strange. Boss, awaiting your orders. Do you see any clay pigeon shooting devices? I don't think he's practicing shooting clay pigeons. We need to be sure, Frank. Boss, now he's aiming towards Trump. Can you see his expression? What expression? His facial expression. He seems to be mad. I don't know, boss. Or is he looking at him admirably? I can't tell. Maybe it's just using the rifle scope to get a better look. Boss, if we don't act now, he will shoot him. Stay calm, Frank. I don't think. He's shooting, boss. Holy cow. He's still shooting. What do I do? Are you sure you don't see any clay pigeons around? No clay pigeons. All right, in that case, fire a warning shot immediately. We couldn't have known, Frank. We did everything we could.
I just thought that was great. I thought that was great. Also, just want to give a shout out to Coyote Patriot again over there in the chat. Thank you again for that $2 donation. I appreciate that. And I saw someone else that did as well. Igor Tigor. Thank you again for that support. And thank you everybody. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for kind of joining live. We've got over 6,000 people on just on Rumble alone, which is great. This information is getting out here. I ask of everyone, if you've made it this far, if you're still watching me, obviously I've got something to say that's worth listening to. Do me a favor and share this video. Share it on your social media. Email it to a friend. Share it on Facebook and get banned. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, if you share my stuff on Facebook, you get blacklisted. They don't like me over there, but I'm still there. But yeah, when you share this content, though, that's what really helps because YouTube, for instance, where is the algorithm that you can go really viral and reach a lot of people. I'm so blacklisted there. It's just useless. It's so bad. So when folks share the content, that's what really helps me to reach new people and get this information out because there's a lot going on. And again, reminder, just to make sure you're following what I'm doing. Make sure you're following on Twitter. Man in America US is my handle on there because I think there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff happening as we lead up to the election and post-election. And my goal is to be a voice of reason in a world that's gone mad. That's what I'm here for, is just to be a voice of just reason. Okay? I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And I'll be very honest about things that I don't know. But I like to research and pull things together and just share my thoughts with you. I love sharing my research with you and saying, hey, what do you think? And if you have things that I've missed, comment. Put them in the comments. I read your comments. They help shape the narrative that I'm understanding, and they're all helpful for the next shows. So if I miss something, if you want to communicate with me, leave a note in the comments. I'll be checking those out. So, folks, thank you. Take care. God bless you. God bless America. Have a wonderful and beautiful night. Thank you so much.